Hey everyone, I'm Catherine and welcome to my channel. So today is the 6th of August of 2021 and we in Australia are amongst a COVID outbreak. So I'm from a little city just north of Sydney and we found out yesterday at 5 p.m. that we've been forced into a snap lockdown for a period of 7 days, which means I'm going to have a lot more time to create more YouTube content. Today we're going to be discussing the Instagram influencer case of Alexis Sharkey. Alexis was murdered in November of 2020. Investigations into the murder are ongoing and there have been no arrests made to date. So as more evidence comes to light and when there is an arrest eventually made, I'll provide you with updating videos and I'll create a playlist on this specific case. This video is dedicated to Josie Jordan and let's jump right in. I like to put a face to the name of the people we'll be talking about. So this is Alexis. Alexis was born Alexis Lee Ravenalt. Sharkey is her married name. Alexis was born on the 25th of June of 1994. She grew up in northwestern Pennsylvania with her parents Michael and Stacy and her two younger sisters. The family is reported to have been very close and loving with one another. Alexis was described as friendly, loving, kind, generous, and a well-adjusted child and adult. Alexis is clearly gorgeous, but she was also very intelligent. Alexis's family have stated that Alexis was almost addicted to learning and that she had a very analytical mind. Everyone loved Alexis. In high school, Alexis played sports. She had a lot of friends and she was in the National Honor Society. Alexis graduated school in 2012 and she started university at the University of Pittsburgh and she studied biology, nutrition and psychology. Alexis really enjoyed her time at school, which helped her to succeed. Alexis was top in her class with respect to grades. Alexis's initial plan was to study medicine when she graduated university. However, after finishing university, she decided to take some time off to relax and to travel. The first thing that Alexis did when she finished school was she moved to Odessa in Texas and she started working at Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks is kind of like Hooters. Now, after Alexis moved to Texas and she started working at Twin Peaks, it's reported that she made a lot of friends very quickly. Now, a lot of Alexis's friends have said and commented about how warm she was. So apparently Alexis was a very loyal, warm, welcoming, kind soul, and she made many friends very, very quickly. In the summer of 2017, Alexis was actually engaged to a man. I couldn't find the identity of the previous fiance online. However, they separated soon after the engagement, and Alexis and her friends commented about how instrumental and how helpful Alexis's friends were in assisting her to get over her ex-fiance. Alexis had one main friend at Twin Peaks, and her friend later explained that Tom Sharkey was a regular to Twin Peaks and that he often talked to all of the staff, but that she observed that he had an instant spark with Alexis and that he usually drew and gave all of his attention to Alexis when he visited. Now, Tom and Alexis started a relationship from meeting at Twin Peaks, and the relationship escalated quite quickly and became romantic. So there's not a lot of information about Tom on the internet. So he worked in the oil fields, and as part of his job, he was required to travel around the world. Alexis loved that Tom traveled for his job, and they began to travel together. You can see from these photos that Tom was an extremely large man. He looks somewhat like a bodybuilder and is definitely over 6 foot tall. So Alexis was in her early 20s when she met Tom, and Tom was in his mid 40s. Tom had been married before and he was divorced, and he had 2 children to that previous marriage. This didn't matter to Alexis. She loved Tom and she was happy to commence the relationship. Soon after Alexis's relationship with Tom commenced, she decided that she no longer wanted to work for Twin Peaks. She wanted to have a job that gave her a lot more flexibility and freedom to travel and to work in her own time. So she quit her job at Twin Peaks and she started working for an MLM company called Monet. So if you don't know what an MLM company is, it is a multi-level company, often referred to as a pyramid scheme. So it usually involves one person at the top who recruits other people to sell products, and they take a portion of whatever the people underneath sell. And Alexis was quite high up. She moved up in the MLM company very quickly, and she became the executive director within months. So in 2018, the monthly average salary for a Monet director was $34,192. So that's over $400,000 a year. So she was definitely on high income. And her Instagram following also increased around this time. So she was always uploading photos and videos of her traveling with her friends and portraying this lifestyle. And with those MLM companies, often they're selling a lifestyle, come work for us, sell our products, and this is the life you could live. You're not working 9 to 5 behind a desk, you're out traveling, partying, doing this, doing that. And Alexis just portrayed that lifestyle so well. And so eventually Alexis had over 22,000 Instagram followers, and she said to her friends that she didn't like being referred to as an Instagram influencer. She preferred being referred to as a mentor and a businesswoman. So Alexis always had her phone. So part of her job in the company saw her always uploading to social media, uploading new sales, new products, and again, really reinforcing that fun lifestyle. So Alexis was known never to go anywhere without her phone, and her friend said that she usually uploaded a story or something to some form of social media every couple of hours. So she was very, very active on her phone and on social media. So Alexis and Tom continued to date, and in the summer of 2019 they became engaged and they decided to move to Colorado together. So you can see from Alexis's social media that she and Tom did a lot of vlogging. Now I know when you post things on social media, usually you don't upload the arguments in a relationship or the sad times, but they look very happy, overwhelmingly happy. I mean, the vlogs create this perception that they have the perfect loving relationship, and you can see that they travel and they enjoyed themselves in 2019. Now, in December of 2019, they got married. They got married in a courthouse in Colorado, and the ceremony, it was just a small non-event. And I think a lot of the Instagram followers of Alexis were surprised. They expected her to do a big song and dance and post all about her wedding on social media, but no, they just did it at a courthouse in December of 2019. So in the early months of 2020, they settled back into living in Texas, Houston. So they moved from Colorado back to Texas. And at this time, Alexis was 26 and Tom was 49. So when Alexis moved back to Texas, she actually downloaded an app called Bumble BFF. So you might have heard of Bumble for dating. There's also an app, Bumble BFF, where you go on to make friends in an area. And this is where Alexis met her soon-to-be best friend, Tanya, and Tanya's last name was Ricardo. Tanya was a divorced mum who was also looking for a new friend, and soon after talking and chatting, Tanya invited Alexis to meet her girl group of friends, and then Alexis also invited Tanya to meet her Monet group of friends, and then they combined their girl group and they had this big, awesome girl group, and they were all best friends, and they created a group chat, and they started talking in their girl group chat almost daily. So when later the friends have come forward and said that with respect to communication in that group chat, if someone wrote in there, it was always Alexis who responded first and quickly. They all said that she was just always on her phone. So she was always in the group chat. She was always posting on her story. She was just very, very active on social media. Some of the friends noticed that Alexis rarely talked about Tom, and he rarely came to hang out with them and their other partners. She kept Tom kind of separate to her new girl group. So now we move on to talk about November 2020. In the first half of November 2020, Alexis and her friend went on a trip to Martha, Texas. She then went on a trip to Cancun with her friends, and Tom wasn't invited and didn't attend either of these trips. You can see that Alexis, of course, she was posting on her social media every day while she was on these holidays. And in one of the photos that she uploaded, she did a caption and it basically said, "I love it here so much, I'm going to move here." Now, she could just be saying that, the hype, she loves the holiday place. But a few people have subsequently said, following the murder, that perhaps she was arguing with Tom and that she'd indicated that she wanted to move there to get away. Of course, that's just hearsay and allegations at this point in time. So when Alexis came home after the 2 trips with her friends, she spoke to her mum, and her mum said that they planned that Alexis was going to come and spend some time with her over the Christmas holidays. Alexis's mum said that she hadn't seen her in about a year, which was really out of character because before Alexis, or growing up, Alexis was very connected with her family, and she spent a lot of time with her family and usually made the effort to see them more often each year. So it was quite significant that she hadn't seen her family in over a year. On the evening of 26 November 2020, so it was Thanksgiving, Alexis spent the dinner with her friend Tanya, not Tom. She had dinner with Tanya, and then she told Tanya that she was going to go out drinking with one of her friends. So one of her friends picked her up and they went out drinking till about 3 a.m. in the morning. Tanya says that she had a text message off Alexis that night in the early hours, basically saying, I'm going to come back and get my stuff, my clothes, my car, etc. But Tanya was already asleep, and when she woke up, Alexis's belongings were gone. So in America, the day after Thanksgiving is called Black Friday. So that's where there are a lot of sales on at the shop. So you can imagine if you were in MLM, you'd be posting, you'd be, pushing the sales and getting your team on board to really make those sales on Black Friday. However, her friends indicated and her Monet team indicated that she wasn't active on social media, which they found very bizarre and which raised suspicion. At approximately 5:30 p.m. on Black Friday, a message was sent from Alexis's phone into the girls' group chat, and it basically said, who wants to go out drinking tonight, or who wants to go out tonight? None of the girls were keen, so Tanya wrote back and said, look, I can't, my mum's still here, but how about we have a girls' movie day tomorrow? And all of the girls were on board for that, so they planned the girly movie day for the day after Black Friday. So the last communications from Alexis's phone into the group chat happened between 5:30 and about 6:30 p.m. on the Black Friday, and that's the last time anyone heard from Alexis again. So a few hours after the girls in the group chat had organized the girls' pajama day for the following day, Tom ended up messaging his friend John, and John was a partner of one of the girls in the chat. And he basically said, have you heard from Alexis? I'm worried, something along those lines. And John was concerned, and John called him, Tom, and said, well, what's going on? Give me the rundown. You haven't seen her. She's missing. What's going on? So during the 45-minute phone call, John became somewhat concerned because Tom changed his story a couple of times. Initially, he said that they had an argument and she left on foot. She took a phone with her. And then later he said that the phone wasn't taken. He also said that they had an argument. She was wearing running shoes and sweats. He said that he saw her climb the back fence and that she got into a black car. At one point, he said that he followed the black car around and then lost cell service. And then when he lost cell service, he stopped following the black car around, and then he just went to the petrol station. And that's when he started calling and messaging people saying, have you heard from her? What's going on? Apparently also during the phone call, he then said that they didn't have the argument, but that she left the house. So in one story, he said that she left on foot, and then the other one was, no, she actually got into the black car. So it was kind of like the story had changed during the 45-minute phone call, and that concerned John. I think the most concerning change in the story was that he initially said that they'd had a bit of an argument and then she left, and then by the end of the phone call, it was that they didn't have an argument. So the next day was supposed to be the girls' pajama movie day, and Tanya wrote into the group chat, is everyone still keen? Is everyone still coming over, etc., etc. As the other girls woke up, they were commenting into the group chat, yeah, we're still coming, we're still excited. But Alexis didn't write anything. And of course, they all knew that she hadn't posted anything on Black Friday. She'd been very weird, very quiet. They made this plan, and now she wasn't writing back at all. Her friends said that Alexis had read receipts set up on her phone, and they could see that the messages were still going through, but that she hadn't read or opened the messages, which they found very concerning because the usual pattern is that Alexis was the first person to open, read, and respond to the messages. So her friends became very concerned. Tanya ended up driving over to Tom and Alexis's house, and she rang the doorbell. There was no answer, and she became more and more concerned for Alexis' safety. She reports that she really wanted to call Stacy, Alexis's mum, but that she didn't want to worry Stacy. What I find interesting here, though, is that Tom knows that Tanya is her best friend, and Tanya knows about Tom, obviously, because Alexis and Tanya are like besties. Why wasn't Tanya one of the people that Tom was messaging? I wonder what happened there. So Tanya eventually rang Stacy, Alexis's mum, and Stacy told her that she'd been speaking to Tom all day, and she was quite aware that Alexis was allegedly missing. The story about the black car, that Alexis got into the black car, was her friends were informed of that, and they all said that they didn't know anyone with the black car. Further, that there was no evidence on the phone that she had called an Uber or a taxi or arranged with anyone to come and collect her. The other thing is, when Tom indicated during the 45-minute phone call that she left on foot, none of her friends lived close, and she hadn't arranged with any of her friends to go to their houses. And so people were a bit confused with respect to what could have happened. So after Alexis had been missing for over a day, her friends decided to file a missing person report. So it was in fact her friends that filed the report, not Tom. Alexis's friends and her mother were very vocal on social media. They were posting posts, have you seen Alexis? Justice for Alexis. Alexis is missing. Really trying to get the public to start looking and helping find their friend. Now, it was at the same time as these posts were being posted by Alexis's family and friends that a body was found approximately 4 kilometers away from Alexis's house. So council workers were driving a vehicle and they said that they saw legs. They thought it was a mannequin at first, but they saw legs coming from the side of the road. And the person driving actually was so concerned that he called his supervisor and said, look, there are legs. I'm not going to approach. I want you to come here. And then his supervisor came and they approached and they could see that it was a naked body. So it was basically legs hanging out, and upon further observation it was a naked body, and they described the body as really, really clean. So it looked like almost like she'd had a bath and then had been dumped on the side of the road, and there was definitely no attempt to hide the body. The legs were in clear sight. You can imagine how devastated Alexis's family and friends were, because her phone was still turned on, and so they were holding on to that little bit of hope that she might have just ran away or she would re-emerge. But later that day, Tom went down to the police station and he provided a positive identification that the body that was found on the side of the road naked was Alexis Sharkey. There were no signs of trauma on the body at all, and so initially it wasn't treated as a homicide. You can imagine that because of Alexis's popularity on social media, this case really blew up. A lot of people on social media were suggesting that it could have been poisoning or strangulation, but no one knew at the time. The police interviewed Alexis's friends and family to discuss, did she take drugs? What could this have been? Etc., etc. And the friends and family were very adamant that it wouldn't have been a drug overdose and that someone definitely did this to Alexis. She was a happy, warm person. There was no signs of self-harm, that she might have wanted to herself or anything like that. And so the family and friends informed police that they were of the view that they should be treating this as a homicide. As is usually the case, after the case gained a lot of publicity, a lot of information started coming out about her relationship with Tom and her as a person generally. So the friend that she traveled to Martha, Texas with on that holiday earlier indicated that Alexis had disclosed to her that her relationship with Tom was on the rocks, and that she was actually scared for her life being with Tom, and that she was not happy in the relationship, and that there were a lot of issues in that relationship. Now, don't come for me in the comment section. This is alleged by the friend, and technically this is hearsay, but this is what has been said by the woman that she traveled on that holiday with. So one of Alexis's friends came forward. So she went on a trip to Tulum with a few of her friends. One of the friends came forward and said that Alexis, had met and really hit it off with a man named Sebastian whilst on this trip. And one of the friends said that Alexis actually hooked up with Sebastian. Now, another one of the friends that was on the trip said that that didn't happen, that she did meet Sebastian, but that Alexis did not cheat on Tom on this trip. However, that is some additional information that has been disclosed since this murder. What happened with Sebastian is still very much up in the air. It was also disclosed that the friend who picked Alexis up from Tanya's house the night of Thanksgiving, when she went out and partied till 3 a.m. in the morning, it was disclosed that that was actually Sebastian that picked her up, and that they partied together until the early hours of the morning. So it wasn't one of her girlfriends, it was Sebastian, who there had been whispers and allegations that she had commenced a relationship with. I really need to be clear here that these are all allegations at this point in time. It hasn't been confirmed by the police, and as the matter progresses, more of this information will be properly confirmed. But at this stage, it's all allegations and hearsay. Some of the allegations and suggestions online are that Tom found out about Alexis and Sebastian, and it was because of this that resulted in the facts leading to her death. Now, again, all hearsay and suggestion at this point in time. So apparently Tom has complied and assisted with police during their investigation so far, and the police have told Tom and also Alexis's friends not to post about this case on social media. So apparently the police have asked all of the nearby neighbours within the 4 kilometre radius to check their CCTV footage to see if they can see anything like the black car, the ditch. And apparently there is a beauty salon that has CCTV footage that should have covered the ditch where her body was found. The outcome of that CCTV footage has not yet been disclosed to the public, but that might be very telling with respect to, was there a black car? Can you see whose put the body there. And so we wait to see what the outcome of that CCTV footage is. So far, Tom has only done one media interview. It was not on camera, and the interview was completed after her body was found. So the person who conducted the interview said that he appeared very disjointed during the interview and that he was highly emotional. He said that Tom started to receive death threats. That's what he disclosed during the interview, and that he abruptly ended the interview and said that he didn't want them to contact him again. Tom told the reporters that Alexis was very different around him, that she seemed... So to her family and friends, she's reported to be very carefree, loving, etc., etc. He said that she was very different. So around him, that she was very stressed, highly strung, and sad a lot of the time. He denied that they got into a fight that night, and he called her an amazing woman. Tom said during the media interview that he saw Alexis as she was leaving, and that he told her not to drive drunk, but that she did it anyway. So there was a suggestion by Tom during the media interview that Alexis left and she drove drunk. Again, I think that that's conflicting, because if she got into a black car, unless the person driving the car got out and she got in and then drove, I don't know. It's very confusing. I await confirmation from the police with respect to Tom's statement to them with respect to what actually happened on that night, because as of now we're really going off what John said, and it will be very interesting to see what Tom actually disclosed to the police, which will be independent. So after Tom did the media interview and described Alexis as stressed and upset most of the time, her friends, I think, were offended. They went and did a media interview themselves and explained that that's not how Alexis was. Whenever they knew her, they said that Alexis was a very warm, kind soul, and that she wasn't stressed or upset when she was around them. Alexis's mum, Stacey, has stayed somewhat out of the case. She hasn't given any clear indication with respect to what she thinks happened to her daughter yet, which is probably really smart. She said on camera that she was a fan of Tom. She didn't feel unsafe with Alexis being with Tom, and that she was not aware that they had any marital issues together. So finally, in January of 2021, the autopsy results were released to the public, and the cause of death was confirmed as strangulation. And since January of 2021, this case has been treated as a homicide. The public have been quite quick to blame Tom on social media. No arrests have been made to date. A lot of people have commented on his bizarre social media posts since Alexis passed away. But more importantly, before her body was located, there were some instances where Tom had referred to Alexis in the past tense on social media, which people took issue with. So Alexis's mum indicated that previously she and Tom had discussed together and made a joint decision that Alexis would be returned to her hometown and to her family for her funeral. Now, the medical examiner listed Alexis's last name as Ravenel, but she listed Tom Sharkey as the next of kin. Now, the next of kin gets to decide what happens to the body. Now, this is the thing that I think in the media has turned a lot of people against Tom. So apparently Stacey, who had always backed Tom and who had indicated that she's not going to take sides, she's not going to jump to conclusions, she was communicating with Tom, messaging him, asking him, sign the papers, let's have her body returned, let's get the funeral underway. Now, apparently, Tom just started ignoring Stacey. For 2 whole weeks, he ignored Stacey's messages, and it got to the point where Stacey had to contact the medical examiner to get it changed so that she and her husband, the father, the parents, were in fact the next of kin, because he just went silent and wouldn't help them get the body returned so they could have a send-off, a funeral for their daughter. And I think that when this became public, a lot of the people started to turn against Tom. Alexis's parents organised a very small ceremony in her hometown, and at this point in time, and at the time of the funeral, there had been no arrests, and the detectives were somewhat silent on this case. So at this point in time, this is where we're at. There's been no arrests. There's a lot of allegations and a lot of public commenting in the social media forum, but at this point in time, the detectives have been somewhat silent. What I think is definite is that electronic communication is going to play a huge role in this case. And I think what's probably happening is that the detectives are doing a thorough investigation before they say anything publicly, which should happen. So they're probably looking at all of Alexis's phone records, the group chat, her communications with Tom, and all of the other evidence before they come forward and make any statements. My cat's clearly very bored in lockdown because he's come up to join the video. there's been no disclosure with respect to evidence or the police's position as of yet. There have been some top theories that have been circulating on social media, and I must highlight, it's social media. These are allegations, it's not factual. But let's have a quick chat about right now what the main allegations or theories with respect to Alexis's murder are. So the top theory appears to be that people think that Tom did it. Tom was the main culprit. A lot of the people in the social media forums have been saying that apparently Alexis's friend, the one that she went to on the Texas trip with, she came forward and said that apparently during their relationship, Alexis said that Tom would frequently strangle her. It's not clear whether she meant in a sexual way, which I understand some people are into, or whether she just meant he strangled her from time to time as a form of. However, one of the top theories that people mention is that they think that it could have been a sexual thing that went wrong and that he's now trying to hide it. Again, this is an allegation. This is just from public social media. This is not from the police. So, I mean, give however much weight you'd like to give to these statements, but it's very much an allegation, not factual. Allegedly, that friend who she traveled to Martha, Texas with also said that Alexis disclosed to her that often he would strangle her, and Alexis said she was scared for her life and that often she would wake up passed out on the bathroom floor and that scared her. So apparently after that disclosure by the friend, a lot of people in the public have theorized that, you know, that went wrong and now he's trying to cover up that the strangulation went too far. Another theory is that Tom found out about Sebastian, and in response to finding out about Sebastian and Alexis wanting to separate and divorce, that he murdered her. That is another one of the theories that has been circulating. Again, it's an allegation, not factual at this time. So as I mentioned early on in the video, Sebastian, who Alexis met, apparently, so he was a DJ, and one of the other theories is that she actually went to him that night in the black car, and she spent the night with Sebastian, and that perhaps they got into some drugs and there was an OD type of situation because Sebastian was in the DJ party scene. Now, again, it's an allegation. This is all just part of the public theorizing, etc., etc. So Sebastian has an alibi for that night up until about 10 p.m. But after 10 p.m. he says that he was home alone. And so some people have suggested that it was Sebastian who she spent the night with and who is the person who dumped her body. Another theory is that it was her girl group. Her girl group turned against her and were the ones that did this to her. Some of the people are saying that because the police told them not to speak about this case in the public, but particularly Tanya, she continues to speak about this case very publicly and the death of her friend very publicly. Some people have theorized that they did this for attention. My view is that they're all theories. There's nothing that's come out that's been determinative. Everyone should just hold their horses and wait to receive the police report and the proper evidence in future. So as usual, when cases like this happen, people's history and past records are produced and brought to the public's attention. So Tom was divorced in 2009 and some of his divorce records have been brought to the public's attention. Apparently at the time of his divorce, the kids were aged 9 and 12 and the mother specifically said that she needed sole custody and that his time should be supervised. Now, it's important that apparently family and friends, including his own family, supported this and said that he was really struggling with mental health and that he had some serious mental health issues and that his behavior had been detrimental to their children. Now, it's important to note that apparently it was Tom's own family that were worried about the kids. So the divorce records showed that from time to time he would use the children to manipulate the mother and that if she didn't do what he wanted, he became enraged. There was one instance where the ex-wife didn't do something that he wanted or they had an argument and he ended up sending nude photos of his wife to her boss, her employer, and that came out in the public, which is a form of coercive controlling. Alright, that does it for this video. What do you think about this case? Do you have a preferred theory or do you think it's best if we just chill, wait for the police to actually release the evidence and their comments on what they say has actually occurred? Let me have your comments in the comment section below. If you like this video, don't forget to actually like the video, and if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next one.